Welcome to It Is What It Is. I'm Shamri, and today for this Thursday, we are going to do a whole season because this show caught me by my heart feelers. So I'm going to tell you about the whole show, and then you guys should really go and watch it. So the show is Monster in My Family. It came out in 2015. And it's on the Lifetime channel. That's where I watched it at. But it's about Melissa Moore. She's the daughter of the smiley face killer. She brings together one person from the killer's side and one person from the victim's side and brings them together so that they have like this beautiful connection. It's super crazy and powerful. I love it. And I'll tell you why I love it as we go through it. But literally it only got to me for some reasons, and as we go through I'll point those reasons out, and this is probably like one of the episodes that I'll probably get like a little deeper into my own background. Not much, but just a little bit, just because it makes sense why I feel connected but not connected. So let's dive in, shall we? Okay. So the first episode, of course, is Melissa Moore's episode herself. And like I said, she is the driver, she's the daughter of truck driver Keith Hunter Jefferson. Yeah, you guys know I'm shitty with those. Anyway, he's known as the Happy Face Killer from Washington. From 1990 to 1995, so a 5-year span. And her mom are on it, and they get to talk to but the sister of one of the victims that her dad killed. They finally get to have like that time where they say sorry. Because during the court process, you're really encouraged not to, like, fucking stir the pot or ruffle any feathers. So, you really don't have that chance to sit down and, like, express your sorrows for one another. But they get to meet the sister of his first victim, Tanya Bennett. They talk about her sister and how she was to her, and that she was the closest to her sister, and that her sister's story's never been told. And so like you get like this moment where you're like, oh, this is gonna go bad, because Melissa has written a book, and now she's doing this whole like, well, back then, probably still now, was doing the whole kids of murderers come together. And it's a small group of people. It's not that small, but it's small compared to the group of kids that can say their mom is a doctor. You know what I mean? Like, to say you have a parent that is locally vilified and does something like that you're known for is horrible. Absolutely horrible. And there is also another person on here. It's the son of one of his, I think it's his last victim, but she was like a legit girlfriend to Keith before he killed her. And I'm not going to go into really what the killers do, because that's not what this show is about. I'm going to separately do them. So, you know. I can't tell you guys everything, or what's the point of this if I tell you guys everything? But yeah, so like I said, the sister of Tanya Bennett gets to tell her story finally about how her sister was just the light of their lives, and she was more than just a victim. and more than just what he viewed as not worthy of life. And he played God, and that's what her sister said, is he chose to try to play God, and that was not for him to do. So they speak to her a little bit, and they bounce around, and they tell a little bit of like the story, of course, and then they do some home videos and some, mainly her just going through how hard it is with everybody knowing like your family business. And then you get to find out the little things that happened along her life that, like, when it does come out that her dad is who he is, it's shocking, but yet everything starts to connect. Like, the dots start to connect. So, at 6 years old, okay, Melissa finds a bunch of kittens. And she's, like, so happy about these kittens. And she takes them, and her dad hates kittens. And he's like, what do you got there? And starts, like, hurting these kittens. And so she goes and gets her mom. And by the time her mom and her get back to the backyard, he was hanging them up on the clothesline, like by pinching their necks and their tails and stuff. By the time that she got back out there with her mom, all the kittens were dead on the ground. So imagine that. 6 years old. Years old as my daughter. And that's the scarring memory you have. So, I mean, like, right off the bat, you don't feel comfortable, okay? You're kind of like, okay, well, dad's kind of an ass. Well, and then he, like, once told her, like, how he would get away with, like, committing a murder. I won't go into it because it's what he actually does. And she's a kid. And so, like, then she has to think back on that when he gets caught. And she's like, well, shit, he told me. But, like, I never in a million years thought my dad would be that guy. Another thing that they talk about is when they were kids, their dad would pick them up in his truck because he drove semis. And when you drive a semi, you have a sleeper in the back, like right behind the driver's seat. Well, she was sitting on the bed, and a big roll of construction duct tape comes out from underneath his pillow. And she's like, well, this is weird because, like, there's so much gone of this roll. And then you come to find out that, like, he would bind the victims with duct tape. And, like, he would confess to killing them in the sleeper of his truck. So his children are sitting there. They're holding the duct tape. Like, it's all just, like, the mind fuckery. You learn the mind fucks that happen for both sides of the family. Like, her sister walked out the door, and it was as easy as saying, sis, don't go, you know? But, like, that's not what happened, and that's the last memory they have of her, is her leaving the home. Like, you had a lifetime with your dad, and you now all the little weird, shady things in your life start coming together, and they start clicking. And when it starts to first happen, you think you're fucking crazy, because you're like, no. He was that open about everything. But, like, they are. They're so good at manipulating and mind fucking you, really, on what you're actually, like, what's actually going on. That's how a lot of these people get away with it for so long and can go about it back with their families. It's mind-blowing and so fascinating. So fascinating. At the age of 15 years old, right, she's sitting in a diner with her dad. And he tells her, not everything is what it seems. And so she, like, I don't know, like, what kind of hidden message is that? You know, where he's kind of, like, telling her, dude, shit's not perfect, but, like, you don't need to know everything. Because I guess she got scared and got up and, like, went to the bathroom. And when she came back, he, like, completely changed the conversation. So, and then Julie Winningham's son, Don, talks about his mom, and she was also a victim of the happy face killer. And she was also a truck driver. She loved to travel. She loved to do manlier things. I don't like saying that, but that's how they describe it. And her dad is convicted of killing 8 women. Right. So they grew up, and this was like the Spokane area. Well, they lived in Spokane. His crimes were committed in like Oregon, I believe. But like being known as that person, even though your dad doesn't like live there, I think she's blessed for that. Like he did obviously at one point, but being gone, you're just left with the shit he's done, you know? So the second one, now this is the one that I think I related to the most, and literally watching these girls, I just bawled. Okay, so episode 2 is about Spokane serial killer Robert Lee Yates, and he was in operation from 1975 to 1998. His daughters, Amber and Michelle Yates, they talk about what it's like growing up with him. There's 5 of them. There's 5 siblings and 1 brother. 4 sisters and 1 brother. What it was like to see his face in the paper. Amber is the one who reached out to Melissa after his whole, like the whole thing. Her dad ended up killing their dad. We believe it's a total of 13 people. I'm not 100% sure. But their dad would videotape holidays, camping trips, take them to museums, and try to educate his children. But at the same time, he was a very abusive asshole, dick of a father. They never saw him, like, beat up their mom. But he took it out on his kids. And I can relate to that a lot from my past. And having to defend their brother that he is nothing like their father. Because I guess the brother got a lot of shit for being Yates' son, which people are so fucking rude when shit like this happens to a family. So when I was in junior high, my dad got arrested for some pedophile shit within the home. So, I mean, he doesn't have like trails of victims or whatever. But there was 5 of us. And it was crazy seeing him in the paper and then going to school and having to deal with rude ass children. Till this very day, I see those people that talk shit when we were in school and I still judge them. I'm like, you piece of shit. Like, you don't even know how much your words still stuck with me. Even any bully of any sort, of any kind, when you see them, you're like, that one thing you said, you fucking piece of shit. And like, you just think like, oh, people get over it because we grow. We don't. Well, I don't. I had to deal with, my dad was not a completely bad guy. I do have my version of him, which is probably way worse than it actually is, but he was a good guy. And at the end of the day, he was my dad, but he was also something to other people. So when his case blew up, and he was a wrestling coach and a very amazing one, he was very, very talented. So my school, where he was a coach at, everybody talking shit. Going to move on to junior high, where he also coached at the junior high, at the high school level, everybody talking shit. And like, it's just you and your siblings against the fucking world. But still, in my house, it was way wonkier because we, all 5 of us, if you ask my siblings all a question about our childhood. You can pick the same question, ask us all. Every one of us will come back to you with a different answer, because every one of us, even though we lived in that home, we all had a different life in that home. And that's how it is for everyone. No one, and people were like, oh, they just let it happen. And it's like, and people say that about these poor families that like their parents killed people. It's like, oh, they knew he was a sick motherfucker and killing people, and they just didn't do anything. Us as the families, we don't. Like, we don't see that. Like, are you kidding? Like, to believe that someone, a whole family, a whole network of people would willingly let people get hurt is insane. So that judgment right there, I can't stand people for. It drives me insane. And just the whisperings, and especially the sons of rapists and murderers and pedophilias, and I don't know what to call them. Pedophilia is probably not the right word, but I've never really even dealt with my own shit, so I don't know what to call him. So like, I don't know. But these people, I will tell you about other people. They're not all killers, serial killers. So, but just to be able to relate to them on that part of being judged for other people's crimes and having to apologize for other people's crimes. And for people to sit there and be like, it affected me in this way. And you have to look at someone, thank God I don't have to, but someone who no longer has a person, who lost their person, who lost their best friend. And like this Robert Yates, they meet Shauna McClanahan's sister, Kathy, and she brought me to tears because she talks about her sisters like I talk about my sisters. Like, that's my world, my best friend, my everything. And someone came and snuffed them out. And now I get to talk to someone who also was hurt by that person. And these girls sit there and they bawl and they apologize and they are so remorseful for something that they had no control over. Their fucking dad buried a body outside their fucking bedroom window. And we'll get into him. Oh, trust believe. Robert Yates was something else. But like, it was just so heart-wrenching. And Sean missed Christmas, and so her family knew something was happening. Okay, the day after Christmas is when they get the phone call that her body has been found with another victim as well. And so it's just heart-wrenching. And like, she reads the last note that her sister sent to her, and it was like, I'm still struggling with my drug addiction, but things are looking up and things are going to get better, and I love yous. And they were trying to better themselves, and then their dad comes, picks her up, and snuffs her life out like it was nothing. And it's just so powerful, you guys. So fucking powerful. It was insane. So the third guy is Phoenix serial shooter Daniel Hauser from 05 to 06. His brother Randy. He's the second youngest, and Dale was the youngest of all five. They had 5 brothers. Crazy. He went on a 15-month shooting spree, random people. And he has survivors and murder victims. And so Randy meets with a survivor and a murder victim's son, which his son is just, oh my God, this son. I can't even imagine, dude. I bawled and bawled. He tells his story about how his dad died, and his dad was such an amazing man. But you got to learn Dale's background too. So Randy kind of tells Dale's background about how Dale lost 2 children in a driving accident where his wife hit a guardrail, I guess, and went into the water. And he kept trying to go down to get the children, but had to make that final call to let his children go and for him to survive. And so after that, he kind of was never the same. He remarries, he gets a daughter, and now he has a daughter. The daughter becomes sick. She's sick at birth, I think. And so he just has a bunch of anger for the world and a bunch of darkness that he's carrying around. It makes no justifications, but you have to know, you have to know where Dell's coming from. You have to know the shit he goes through. So he starts going on this shooting spree. He gets a partner in it. He finds his partner named Sam. Sam Demon, I think is his last name. So he starts running his mouth and telling people. And so they wire him up. And in the wire recordings, you can hear Dale and Sam saying goodnight to Dale's daughter. And he says, "Hey, good night, Daddy. Don't shoot anyone, Daddy." And this sweet little girl, this 2-year-old girl, repeats it. She says, "Don't shoot anybody, Daddy." And they both laugh and laugh. And then there's like a news report that comes on the TV, and they're like, "Oh, there's a victim. The total count is like 9. And the guys are laughing, and they're like, "Fuck 9. It's this many." They don't think that guy in the street's connected? And so then after that, they're arrested. They're swooped up. The family's then informed, of course, that this whole time, and they have been talking about it, barbecues, get-togethers, the whole thing. The family's discussing it. And he's in the discussions, and he's like, "Yeah, wow, crazy. How insane." And like the brother even told one of the other brothers, "Remember, there's that wacko out there," and like in front of him. And it's same with like Yates. Like they were driving down the road and the mom saw the billboard with all the victims, and she's like, "What a sick motherfucker." And like Robert Yates is driving the fucking family vehicle, and he's like, "Yeah, I know, how crazy." It's so insane. And so like the whole family, they don't know until they're watching the news, and there he is. And like he is embarrassed to be his brother's brother. He didn't believe it really, truly, and fully until he found some of his brother's writings. And this is just another point that shows you really don't ever really know a person. You can grow up with them, in the same room with them. At the end of the day, you don't know him. He's reading these journals, and his brother's talking about starting fires, hurting animals, all these things. But he didn't see that. He saw a kid that got picked on and was bullied. And he didn't see that his brother had all this anger and aggression and what Dale thought was power. Like, it's just mind-blowing, you guys. He didn't know. And it's just so crazy. So once they were arrested, Dale's like, "I don't know a damn thing." But Sam, he did it. And so but he didn't know that Sam had already turned. And so they had already gotten Sam to turn. And Sam is the one who also helped them put the wire in the home. And then you get to see Justin, the son of Tony Mendez. And he was riding his bike to take candles to a family that didn't have power when he came across these two. And he was shot in the back. And he is just, so touching. So touching. He tells him how he wasn't just a father. He was a son. He was a brother. He was an uncle. He was a grandpa. He missed his chance on becoming a grandpa. And he even takes the chance to tell Randy, like, "I judged you. I thought you were going to be just like your brother. And to sit here across from you and see that you're sorry and you're taking ownership of your brother's crimes and everything." It was a really touching moment to see the people of the victims' families, to see that these people, that knew the killers, rapists, shooters, whatever, so fondly were hurt just as much. So it's just so sad. So, so sad. And then you meet Clarissa Raleigh. She was a Marine who was also shot by him. She went to Iraq. When she got to the hospital, she found out that she was actually pregnant at the time and miscarried. She was shot with a shotgun, and she had a buckshot in her hand, wrist, neck, and spine. And she survived all that, and she has grown from that and became a very, very amazing woman. But just to know that, like, you lost life, you didn't even know, you didn't even have a chance to be happy about having a baby before you lost that baby, is so saddening and so disgusting. And Randy finds that out for the first time, and so it just adds a little more hate onto his pile for his brother, because now he knows that this woman didn't just get shot. She lost a child. A child she didn't even get the right amount of chance to mourn. So that's episode 3. Yeah, guys, the shit was deep. I watched it all in one day. I watched season 2, but I didn't want to fucking overdo ya. So episode 4 is the DC sniper, John Allen Muhammad, in 2002, sorry. And his wife, his ex-wife, Mildred Muhammad, talks about how he was a great guy, he was funny, he was romantic. When he wanted to go to the army, he couldn't because he couldn't read. So she taught him to read. He got into the army. He excelled in the army. They together had 1 son and 2 daughters. He was a super great dad. He did suffer from PTSD. And after that is when he would break things that she would like. Okay? And when she's like, why are you doing that? Like, why do you do that? This is what he said. He said, quote, "It's mind over matter, 'cause I don't mind and you don't matter." Oh, fuck you, bro. I'm throwing something at your face. So they divorce. And in the middle of the night, she would find him in their house, like watching them sleep, standing over them. She got a lifetime restraining order, so she picked her kids up and moved across the country to Maine. I think they were from Washington originally. And so she moves clear across, dude. Before that happens, he kidnaps the kids. He takes the kids to a different part of the country. And he meets a guy over there. And so he comes back. He calls the guy comes. His name is Lee Melvo. He's doing life for his part of it, okay? So when the kids were gone out of the country for 18 months, okay? 18 fucking months they were gone. When they see their mom, dude, it's crazy. They're happy. They're overjoyed. He keeps telling them the mom's coming. Mom never comes. And then when she takes away the children and everything else from him and she wins in the court of the law, is when he calls Lee and he's like, dude, I've lost everything. You need to come. You need to come now. And Lee says it was like being in a cult of 2. He called John dad. He called the siblings called him brother. It was insane. Insane. So at the time, Mildred has a friend, Isa, who is helping her deal with the court process and having her back. Pretty much, she's just being a solid friend. Well, they want to get back at her, and they can't get back at her because they don't know where she is. Mildred's left. And so they're like, well, we're going to draw her out. And so they go, and Lee goes, and he thinks he's shooting Isa. He's not. He kills her niece in the doorway of their home, and her 18-month daughter is still upstairs. And so after that is when they leave Washington State. I guess they do find out that she is in Maine. And so they head to Washington, D.C., shooting people along the way and robbing them along the way. They shot Paul. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his last name. When I do the in-depth of this story, I will promise practice by then. But he was a restaurant owner. He was shot in the parking lot. They stole his money from him, and they used that money to buy the car that they got caught in. In 2009, John was put to death, and the kids all waited by the phone for him to come and say his final goodbyes. He never calls. They find out, they have the news on in the background, and they know that he's not calling when the guy walks up to the podium and says that his death warrant has been carried out. So, tragic. Tragic. Oh, my fucking God. Absolutely horrible. Okay, episode 5 is the classified rapist, Bobby Joe Long. And in this, you meet his ex-wife, Cindy Brown, and his son, Chris. And they get to talk to Kimberly Swan's sister, Tammy. And Bobby also liked to be one of those people to do the home video recording thing. And Cindy and Bobby met at the age of 14. So they were high school sweethearts. At 18, he goes into the army. She follows him. They start popping out some children's. He gets into a wreck, a really, really bad wreck. And he hurts his head. And after that wreck, he starts beating his wife. Just like after the PTSD thing, she starts getting beat. He starts beating his wife. And you get to hear Chris hearing the screaming coming through the walls. And his mom says, "Oh, I tried to be really quiet so you guys would never hear a thing." How heartbreaking is that? Ugh. And he said you'd never know how hopeless it was watching and knowing his mom was getting beaten up and not being able to do anything or help fight him or help anyway. Ugh. She always thought that maybe his head would heal and things would go back to normal. She said one night she stood above him with a gun pointed at his head for 4 hours. And she tried to do it. She really tried. His alarm went off, startling her. She still stood there pointing the gun. When he woke up, he said, "Bitch, you don't have the guts." And she said she did have the guts, but she didn't want to lose her kids. So he would call ads in the paper trying to find women. If they were home alone, he would go and he would rape them in their homes. He raped over more than 50 women, killed 10. The first murder victim was found on Mother's Day. The red fibers connect these killings, and I'll tell you why. He takes 17-year-old Lisa off her bike back to his place. Okay, he rapes her, ties her up, the whole spiel, takes her back to his apartment. When she goes, the next day he looks at her and he's like, "Well, what am I going to do with you?" And she's like, "I'm going to be your boy. I'm going to be your girlfriend. No one has to know anything about anything." Well, when she goes to the police and reports everything, she has the same red fibers that they've been finding on dead victims from around the area. So she is the first living victim they have. And she says, "Oh, well, it's because the inside of his car is red. The seats are red bucket seats, red carpet, the whole thing." So that's how they know. That's how they know that it's the car. So Kimberly Swan was 21 years old at the time of her death. She was a single mom. She went out for the night and never made it back home. So that's just the worst thing ever. Like, I can't imagine saying goodbye to my sibling and be like, see you later. And you never know. And it's just, I don't know. The sisters, dude, they were so connected that they got pregnant at the same time. They had their babies on the same day. Kim had a boy, her sister had a girl. Like, you guys, really? He tried to rape Kimberly, but she fought so fucking much that he killed her instead. Like, that's why she died, is because she fought. So they get to look at her in the face and be like, we are just so sorry. Like, it's just, I don't even know. And like, Chris was 10 years old when they found each other, like when he got caught. So when they find each other, they find out that right after Kimberly's mom, like the courts and everything else, she's like, Kimberly's mom just lost her. She lost her own daughter. And yet she's sitting there worried about this man's family and like the pain he must have caused his family. Which, shockingly, he was an amazing dad according to his children. Like, they never would have suspected a thing. And like, that's just the thing too with like mine. Like, people trusted, except for I had one friend, her dad was like, nah, I ain't about that shit. You ain't ever staying the night at that house. And I always thought it was weird. But now, like, I've talked to her father since mine went away. And he was like, no, dude, I just had a feeling. Like, I just had a feeling that it wasn't safe. And he trusted his gut no matter what. He was like, I'm sorry, but you're just not. And he's the first person I've ever known in my life to like do that for his child. That was amazing. No matter how much she fought, because she was my sister's best friend, my best friend. Like, she fought hard to be able to stay at our house. And it was just never a thing. She never could. So it's just crazy. It's just crazy. What other people see that you don't see, and the things that you don't see that you should have seen. And like, but should you have seen them? Because this person's your dad. It's your brother. It's, okay, so this is the last one. This is also a guy who's in my top 5. So, episode 6 is the killer, clown killer, John Wayne Gacy. His sister Karen, yes, his sister gets to say what it was like growing up with him. And she says it was amazing, that he was an amazing big brother. She followed him around everywhere. She was his sidekick. And that it was just amazing. Like, he was just amazing. He was funny. He was intelligent. He was just great. She gets to meet victim. There's a victim named John as well. His sister, Patty. So Karen gives a little bit of a backstory about how their dad would beat them and that he wanted John to do manly things, but John wasn't about the manly life. He would go and like make cookies with his mom and decorate cookies. And so his dad always was like, you're a disappointment, fool. You're a disappointment. You got a case of pussitis. I ain't about you. So it was super sad. Super sad. So she gives that background. And at 17, him and his dad get into a big family fight, like a big, huge fight. And he leaves. And so they have to find a PI to find him. And he was in Nevada. But before that, Karen remembers telling on him one time because she found a bag of silk underwear in his closet. And she told her mom. And she was like, this is weird. And later on in life, obviously, the mom's like, I never told you, but like, he used to take my underwear too. He like had like this weird thing. And so it's just like I don't know. And then he went to prison, okay? In Nevada, he got charged with sodomy. And he was running for a political party, so he convinced his family that this was like a whole lie. Like, it never happened. It was just a political stunt. The guy he was running against made up the story. It was his kid that said he was sodomized. It was all a bunch of bullshit. Well, he did 18 months in prison for this when he was given a 10-year sentence. And his dad died in that time and he blamed himself, but Karen says it's because he drank a lot and like his own alcoholism killed him. So when he gets out, he starts his business, he starts throwing parties, get-togethers, and he also starts doing his Pogo the Clown shit, which is weird. The night that victim John went missing, he went on a date, and then when he took the date home, he went missing. He never goes and picks up his paycheck, so they don't know what's going on. His mom even pays an extra month on his rent just in case he just dropped her off and went on like a crazy excursion or something. But you also get to find out the sad things, like Karen tried taking her own life twice because of the shame of what her brother did. It was horrible. And how the cops would go and like they were watching his house and trying to like wait for him to screw up. And that like how they got the second warrant from the one cop going in the bathroom and being like, I smell death in there. I can't get too much into it because then it will just ruin the episode. So like I said at the beginning, I'm not getting into their crimes as much. And his lawyer calls his family after they get into the house the second time and he's like, oh guys, shit hit the fan. He done killed a lot of people. She hated her brother, absolutely hated her brother. Her daughter was in 8th grade when this all came out and John Wayne Gacy's whole thing came unglued. His niece was only in 8th grade. I can't even imagine. So when she asked her brother if he did this, he said maybe a few. By the time he died, he found peace with himself. And so when he died, it wasn't like terribly sad. They said goodbye. He died in 1994. He was put to death, John was. So you do get to hear about her, like the last time she got to see her brother, which I understand he did horrible things and he needed to die, but everybody needs to understand it's her brother. You know? He may be like the killer clown, but it's still her fucking brother. You still mourn. It's still your father being put to death. It's still like there's two sides to every story. And like I am Joan's sister Patty's makes a very she says you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. And that they both lost things. They both lost their brothers, just in different ways. Her brother just took hers. And I really wish people understood that there is two sides and that they act alone. The perpetrator acts alone. No one knows. No one condones what they do. And I mean, yeah, there are the cases where it is like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, fucking Hills Have Eyes, all that type of shit. Where the family, it's like a group activity. We be killing you, torturing, and eating you together. That's different. That's a different type of family bond, okay? Normal people, and we are normal people until these crimes abrupt our lives. I mean, I wasn't the greatest 13-year-old in the world. I was sassy and loud and obnoxious, and me and my father never saw eye to eye. And I always wanted that attention from him that I never got. And so I grew up not liking my siblings because I was like, you guys are all loved and my brothers are amazing athletes. They're shitheads, but they're amazing athletes. My sisters are amazing. Like, you know what I mean? But like as a little kid, I'm like, fuck all of you. Like, you guys get what I don't get. So like when my dad went away, it was different. I was the bully mainly to my family because they were sad and I was happy. And it was like, and don't listen to that and think I was fucked up. But like me and my dad have a very very difficult relationship. Well, we did. We've washed it away, and now he's him, I'm me. I don't hate, I don't hold resentment or anything like that. We just don't communicate. He's still a good guy. He's still my fucking dad. And like I have an amazing stepmom and like siblings and like step siblings and all that. So like, and he's a member of the church and they've all washed away his sins and like all that great stuff. So like people do commit horrible crimes and do better themselves. Like, I don't know. I'm thankful I don't have any outside victims to like look at. Mine is just an inner, and I get to look at her and know that she's an amazing person. And I understand that everybody and anybody can find out about our family situation because of Google. And you obviously everybody knows where I'm from. But like, I don't know. Dude, it was horrible. Growing up with that stigma around you was horrible. And I can only imagine what it would have been like if he would have been a killer or something like that and had that stigma. But being attached to a pedophile's is worse. Because we had people being judging us. Like, oh, you can't go hang out with them. You might get touched. Like, you can't go over. Like, judging us and like people telling me and my sisters like you or who it happened to and spreading rumors and being like, oh, I heard she was gonna have her dad's baby, like all this crazy shit. Like I turned into a person I was not before. I became a very angry, violent, angry person. And it wasn't until literally like most of these people years later that I finally got to look at it and be like, okay, he was fucked up too. He went through his own hardship too. Does it make it right? No. And then I talked to my siblings and like, I don't know, you guys, it's just so hard. It's just so hard. The fact that people judge people for the crimes or the actions of other people pisses me off. And I've had a bunch of people recently ask me why I don't point out the race of the victims or what happens. Because in my mind, that doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter if you are black, white, blue, purple, green, or fucking yellow. Someone killed you. So why do I have to sit here and tell you this black person killed this black person? It doesn't matter. 2 lives were forever changed in that moment, and it's a ripple effect. It's not just 2 lives. I'm not going to sit here and just focus on that because they were more than just the color of their skin. They were a daughter, a sister, a brother. You know what I mean? Like, I look at crimes and stuff differently. I don't look at them the same way as other people because of what I've been through. I've been the kid who grew up going to the jail to go visit their parent, and you get your jail friends where every visit the other kids are there seeing their fucked up parent too. Like, that was my childhood, my teens anyway. So like, in watching the devastation of the ripple effect, it starts out with the perpetrator and the victim, and it fucking ripples, dude. It hits everyone. Everyone and anyone, and people I didn't even think got hit by it got hit. So it's just the world. You all need to understand, you can't judge people. You can't hate on people. When these type of things happen, you need to reach out to the people that are related to that person. Their lives are crushing too. They are. And yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I'm perfect. I don't talk shit. I just did the whole thing where I'm like, Lori Vallow's sister looks like a fucking crazy liar. But she does. And I mean, you can have your personal opinions, but do not personally attack them and tell them you knew. You could have changed it. You could have stopped it. That shit is what I'm talking about. It is never that person's problem for what the other person did. Like, my brothers are not anything remotely kind of sort of except for looks, only because them genes be strong like him. So I mean, and I get very defensive, and I did when I was growing up, with girls being like, oh yeah, you guys heard what his dad did? He did that to me. And it's like, bitch, calm down before I fucking hit you. No, he didn't. You're just trying to seem cool. And it's this thing, like you have the Seattle killer, right? And then those kids go to school and they're like, "Oh, I could have been killed because I went to that house." And they just start talking shit like kids do. And that's what happened in my case too. Kids were like, "Oh yeah, her dad hit on me too." Quit trying to make yourself feel special. When these type of things happen, it's not the time to boast or try to make yourself more important than you actually are. It's just horrible. And I recommend everybody watches shows like this because it would open your eyes to the fact that there is more than just those two sides to every story. It's horrible. And any other people with parents like that grew up like that, like, I feel you. And I hope to God you chose a different path other than anger and hate and resentment. I may not talk to mine, but we are on a level of respect where he is my father, I am his daughter, I am his second born, but we don't have to go any further than that. And we're cool with that. I'm good with it. He's good with it. So don't ever fucking judge me on that part. I have an amazing relationship with my stepmom, with all of my siblings. I haven't met my step siblings like in person, but damn, we good on Facebook. So like, I don't know, y'all. Like, you just don't understand. And really, that's what I want my podcast to bring to people, is the understanding that there is just more than one side. I listen to all of these podcasts and all of them tiptoe around it. They're like, well, I'm not going to be mean because this person is a person and blah, blah, blah. Speak about the case how you feel about the case. If you don't think that shit added up, why is it a problem to say shit didn't add up? I don't believe he committed crime. This or whatever. People, it's America. You're free to have your own opinions and your own thoughts, so God bless it. And that's just my little tangent for Thursday. Really good season. Really good. And if any of you guys are the kids from junior high that made fun of me, I still fucking hate you. Secretly. A little part of me. You can apologize. I'm just kidding. You don't need to. It's been years. But just know that, like, that shit hurts. So take a minute and think about the people you were mean to. And think, that person turned out this way. Did anything that I do have any effect on what happened there? You know, just kind of, sort of. Maybe. Maybe think about that person that went through a tragic thing when you were in school, and how did you handle that? Did you make fun of that person? Or did you build that person up? I only had, I think it was only my high school boyfriend at the time that, like, legitly stood by me, and besides my brothers and their brothers from other mothers, but, like, that was it. Literally everybody left me. So it's just crazy. You guys, it's just crazy. Please, please, please watch this. Like I said, it's called Monster in My Family. Watch it on Lifetime. There's 2 seasons. The first season, obviously, is 6 episodes long. I think season 2, sadly, I think it's like 4. But it's just understanding, man. I just hope to God I can bring some understanding to this world. Just a little bit. Maybe. Who knows? I did start a Patreon, but, like, I'm not expecting anything. So it is what it is. Pod19 on patreon.com. if you feel the need. If you don't, legitly, I'm good. Would love support more. So like it, share it, comment, tell me how you feel, all those great things. Share my pages. Yeah. And I am looking for a cartoonist out there. I want to start out with stickers. I want my brother's drawing to be like my first clothing design, but I want to start doing like stickers and stuff and like card details. I'm looking for a cartoonist of any sort. If anybody doodles, doodle it up. If I like it, I will purchase it from you. And okay, we'll make it like a cute little contest thing. You can draw me up a thing. All I want is a cute cartoon little killer with like the little phrase, "It is what it is," or whatever. Do whatever you want. Your signature or design logo can be on it if you want. I have no quarrels against that because I'm not looking to spend a bunch. We're probably going to do like a $40 cash prize to the winner because I'm cheap. And you can put your name on it so that when I print the stickers, everybody in the world will know it was you. And yeah, that's going to be fun. Let's fucking do that. Okay. Yeah. All doodlers, show me your doodles. I want to see the doodles. All right. And I love every one of you, each and every one of you. And yeah, follow me on It Is What It Is Pod 19 on Instagram. It Is What It Is 208 on Twitter, because that's where I'm from. On Facebook and YouTube, It Is What It Is, a true crime podcast. So peace out.